Australia has lost the World Test Championship final. South Africa cast aside decades of hurt to finally sit on top of the world. Now Australia has more questions than answers before they face the West Indies. I'm going to go through every player from both sides and give them a rating out of 10. It might be a one-off test, but that match at Lords will have massive ramifications for the future of both teams. So drop us a comment, let us know if you agree or disagree with our ratings. Let's start with the match winner, Aiden Markram. His score of 136 is one of the most important knocks in South African cricket history, and it finally brought them some success in a final after years of choking. He was particularly cool in the second innings while Temba Bavuma was battling injury, and their top order's pretty experienced, so he had a big job on his hands. That was the toughest period of the match, and he made the deck look easier than it was. It did come after a duck in the first innings though, so I'm giving Markram an 8, and he's not our highest rated South African. Now Marnus Labuschagne, the Australian under the most pressure. It felt like he was just keeping the Wolves at bay during the Test summer, and then he was elevated to open in this one. He is completely under siege now, thrust up the order to open for the first time in Test cricket. And for parts of it, he actually looked pretty comfortable. This was a case of looking good until you don't. He made 17 in the first innings. He then made 22 in the second. But I think the issue with Marnus was his trademark staunchness in using his leave in that fourth, fifth stump line just wavered under the test of Rabada. It was some excellent new ball bowling, and he really battled with it. He got his feet moving a little bit, and I thought, here we go, he looks on a little bit, but it just wasn't quite to be. So he gets a 3. It'll be really interesting to see where he bats in the West Indies. You'd think if Green slides to 4 to cover Smith, Marnus goes back to 3, because Australia wants to see Sam Constas in that position from now. Pat Cummins, he reached full flight in an unstoppable spell of 6 for 28 in the first innings. The Australian captain was excellent on the first evening, and he even brought up his 300th Test wicket. He had to do plenty of graft in the second with Aiden Markram getting to work, but he did pick up the key wicket of Temba Bavuma early on the final morning. You certainly can't put the defeat down to his captaincy either, so I'm going to give Cummins an 8. On the other end of the scale is Usman Khawaja. The Aussie veteran opener is having serious issues facing genuine pace at the moment. We saw it through the home summer with Jasprit Bumrah, and now we saw it again with Kagiso Rabada, who caught him on the hop. His feet end up in the air and his hands are feeling at balls that are just too quick for him. He made a duck in the first innings and had to scrape to 6 off 23 in the second dig. So I'm going to give him a 2. He appeared locked in for the Ashes after an excellent series in Sri Lanka, but if he struggles in the West Indies next week, the critics will come hard for Khawaja as an opener. Now, this is my top-rated South African, Kagiso Rabada. He took 5 for 51 in an awesome spell in the first innings. It was one of the best spells of fast bowling Australia's had to face for some time. As I mentioned, Khawaja really struggled with the genuine pace, and just his accuracy plugging away at Labuschagne on the fourth and fifth stump line on the first morning really troubled him as well. He eventually got out Beau Webster after his stand, and then in the second innings, he was given some better support by his fellow paceman as well, and he still took 4 for 59, so he gets a 9. Our returning West Aussie, Cam Green, his eyes were too big for his stomach, unfortunately, in his 2 digs. It was a really nervous-looking return to Test cricket and a tough watch for the West Aussies, wanting him to do so well. He made 4 off just 3 balls in the first innings and then a duck in the second. He snicked off to Rabada both times. While he's not bowling, any low scores will have the pressure mounting on Green like never before in his career. He's not likely to bowl for another few months, but in the West Indies, he could slide back down to number 4 given Steve Smith's injury, which I think will be a more comfortable position for him. So he gets a 2. On to Tristan Stubbs, who is one of the guys that came into the tournament off playing in the IPL. I think those guys probably found the conditions were a lot to adjust to. We'll get to Travis Head later as well. That was made evident by him being bowled twice, which you just don't really see from a Test batter, particularly one in the middle order. He made 2 in the first innings and had to scratch his way to 8 in the second, so he gets a 2 for me. Steve Smith's Test ended before he would have liked with a sickening finger injury. He looked like he was going to throw up. It was that bad after attempting to take that catch at a really short first slip, like an inverted cordon. It looks as if he might have avoided surgery, but there are now serious questions over his place in the side for the West Indies, which would require basically a full reshuffle. His influence on the game was a score of 66 in the first innings, including a 79-run stand with Beau Webster. The lasso cut shot to bring up his half-century was vintage Smith. He made 13 in the second innings and fell to Lungi Ngidi while he was on a bit of a heater, so Smith gets a 6. In the scheme of the whole Test match, Temba Bavuma's 36 in the first innings was really important. Then in the second innings, he limped his way to 66, battling some soft tissue injuries. That was a brave captain's knock, and it was critical to his country finally winning a global trophy. I thought in his captaincy he was probably a little bit too defensive at times, but the call to bowl first had a really big say on the contest in the end, so he gets a 7. South Africa had forecast for a little while that Rickelton would come up to open the batting, but I just thought Mitchell Starc's tricks with the new ball proved a little bit too much, and the support that Hazlewood and Cummins offers just means it was too persistent for Rickelton and there was little relief. He was caught behind in both innings, first made 6 and then he made 16, so he gets a 3. If Australia had won this match, it largely would have come down to Mitchell Starc's 11th career half-century. His second innings stand took Australia from a competitive total to one they probably should have defended. Plus, he took 2 for 41 in the first innings, he claimed the wickets of both South African openers, and he was the best Aussie bowler again in the second with 3 for 66. So he gets 8 to stand up with Cummins. On to Keshav Maharaj. We thought this would be a real spinner's wicket because early season conditions in the UK have been really dry. We thought Maharaj and Nathan Lyon would have a real impact on the game. But South Africa didn't really use him an awful lot, particularly even when it was taking turn in the second innings. But Maharaj's big contribution, I thought, was a nifty change of pace that undid an Alex Carey reverse sweep. That was a really big wicket, and he just slowed it right down for Carey, who had a premeditated shot in mind. It was actually his only wicket for the match, so he gets a 3. Travis Head, he feathered a ball down leg to the wicketkeeper for just 11 in the first innings. It was a sharp catch by Verreynne, but he was clean bowled for 9 in the second. He just didn't seem to settle back into the pace of Test cricket after the IPL, like we mentioned before with Stubbs, and they needed him in stages of the match where Australia were just crying out for partnership. So disappointing match for Travis Head. He gets a 3, but he is one of the guys where his spot is pretty well locked in. Like Bavuma, David Bedingham's first innings stand kind of grows in stature as we look at it retrospectively. It was a backs against the wall 45 that helped them claw back into the contest. He was unbeaten on 21 as well when the business was done at the end. So really, he's had a pretty good match and a really good World Test Championship cycle for them. He's been a good find and he gets a 6 in our ratings. Like I said with Maharaj, we kind of thought this test was set up for Nathan Lyon. He's got such a good 4th innings record, and as soon as South Africa sent Australia into bat, it felt like Lyon would be the man that could bowl them to victory. He actually failed to take a wicket. First innings, he was typically miserly and gave the quick something to bowl around, but his performance was well below expectations, given the deck actually took some turn, particularly on the last kind of day and a half. So he gets a 3. Big all-rounder Beau Webster is about to give selectors a really big problem. The summer fill-in is doing a very, very good job. He came in at 4 for 67 on the first day and was cool beyond his experience. That's the benefit of giving guys almost a decade in Shield cricket before they make their debut and come into the system. He missed out in the second innings with 9, and David Bedingham got after him a little bit with the ball, but he's becoming very hard to leave out ahead of the Windies series and then, of course, moving on to the Ashes. So he gets a 6. Marco Jansen wasn't seen much with the bat. He was out for a duck in the first innings and wasn't required at all in the second. But his real contribution came as a new ball partner to Kagiso Rabada. You look at India and their biggest problem during the summer was a lack of support for Jasprit Bumrah, but Rabada definitely had that, as does Cummins. Jansen was really hot to handle in the first hour. The bounce obviously makes it so difficult at his height. And he finished with 3 for 49 and then 1 for 58. It was really good folly for his bowling teammates, and he gets a 6. Alex Carey had a very mixed test match. His second innings rearguard action with Mitchell Starc actually kind of repented the sins of a pretty ugly premeditated reverse sweep dismissal in his first hit and then a gilt-edged drop catch later that day. He made 23 and then 43. It was a middling game. He'll get a 5. His fellow wicketkeeper, Kyle Verreynne, he took a very sharp catch to remove Travis Head down the leg side on the first day, and his gloves were pretty sharp the whole way through the match. He did miss out twice with the bat though, and they needed him in that role at 7 to just stretch the order a little bit. So he lands at a 4. Lungi Ngidi came in under a bit of an injury cloud and looked way off the mark in the first innings, going wicketless. But the second innings, he genuinely came alive in a wicked spell where he had Steve Smith and Beau Webster both out LBW as part of 3 for 38. We didn't see many LBWs in this game. It was genuinely one of the best hours of bowling we saw, but his first innings brings him down, so he gets a 5. For Josh Hazlewood, it was 1 for 27 in the first innings and 1 for 58 in the second. He provided really good new ball support to Mitchell Starc, but he never really did his own damage like he often does later in innings. He actually went at more than 3 and over during the second innings, and they just couldn't make inroads into South Africa's top and middle order, which is normally what he's so good at. So he gets a 4, and he's obviously got Scott Boland breathing down his neck as well, so that'll be an interesting watch across the next few months. Wiaan Mulder in the first innings looked every bit a makeshift number 3, and was put out of his misery by Pat Cummins after 6 runs off 44 balls. He did look better in the second innings for his 27, and he actually gave them some handy, although they were pretty uninspiring, chop-outs with the ball. He did take the cheap second innings wicket of Travis Head, which came at a crucial time, so that gets him up to a 5. Let us know what you reckon in the comments. And of course, if you like this video, like and subscribe to the West Sport on YouTube. The West Sport Show will be back this week with all our footy coverage, but also a special look ahead to the West Indies series.